my last video, I talked about how there were some spaceships that were about to land here on Earth to take an extraterrestrial being that is being held in captivity in an underground facility somewhere off out of this Earth, so he can be properly prosecuted for the crimes that he has committed here on Earth. In today's video, I will put the link in the description box if you want to watch that, but will be the video previous to this one. So in this video, I want to dive further into what kind of crimes do alien beings commit or have committed against humanity. And essentially, there are some processes and, laws in our galaxy that prevents and condone higher elevated intelligence beings to come and interfere or enslave or interfere with lower consciousness evolution. So essentially this video will be in two parts. The first, there'll be like two different aspects of manipulation. The first aspect will be the psychological manipulation, how ETs have manipulated us in the past, how they can potentially actually manipulate human beings, what do they prey on. Of course, it's going to relate a lot to the New Age movement, the channelers and the psychics and the world of psychics and whatnot. But there's also the other aspect, which are the ways that aliens have interfered by interacting with our technology and how they have used technology against us and what's available to them, essentially. Now, I will not be talking about like abductions and, like genetic mutation and all of this stuff. No, I'm really just going to stick to the psychological aspect of it and the technological aspect of it. And again, I don't want to, it's not about creating like fear mongering here. This channel is not about creating fear. In fact, it's just about coming to awareness with things that are just happening. And what are we supposed to do? Like just turn our head away because it makes us uncomfortable and be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Well, if we don't deal with this right now, it just means we're going to have to deal with this further down the road. And essentially, I'm all about the truth. And what I've learned about sharing the truth sometimes is people prefer comfort. And if a truth becomes too uncomfortable, then, well, feel free to just label me crazy and go back to your comfortable life. I don't care. I'm used to it at this point. It is what it is. But also to bring awareness, but also solutions, because we don't actually have to deal with this crap. We are powerful beings on our own. And if we want to really be powerful and embodied in our power and our sovereignty as a human race, we just have to start actually acknowledging that certain things are happening so we can develop tactics and become stronger and wiser. And I'm all for that. So this video includes some of that as well. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Isabelle and welcome back to the download. So we will first start with the psychological aspect of alien manipulation. And we cannot even start diving into this topic unless we first understand what is mankind's weakest spot psychologically in terms of elevated being looking at us. And our weakest point, because we're only as strong as our weakest link, and what makes us susceptible to maleficent alien interactions is our worshipping nature. For some reason, we humans love to worship and put things and people above us, like they're bigger than us, and we should be even lucky that these things are interacting with us. If we're not worshiping celebrities or gods or deities, we find even celestial bodies to worship in the galaxy, like the sun. We used to worship the sun. And this whole psychological aspect of worshiping is really a weak spot in our psychological makeup. The reason I say that is if we even start to dissect what worshiping is about, is it's an inferiority complex, is saying, wow, I am not as good as that, or I wish I was as good as that. And it's also, I have problems perhaps in my life or things that I do not understand. So because I'm overwhelmed by this, I'm gonna worship the sun or something. And we pick like a celestial body and like, wow, like if you weren't here, we would not exist. And now we almost like lowering ourselves as a being that is lesser than the sun, lesser than celebrities, lesser than gods and deities and whatnot. And this whole I am lesser than, that is a recipe for disaster, especially when we start thinking about opening ourselves to extraterrestrial communication. Why? Because not everybody's nice. And you know, like, it's just, if you reflect, like, the people you meet on the streets, not everyone thinks like us. Not everyone cares about us or humanity. Like, there's certain levels, there's certain layers to that. There are definitely beings out there, just as human, who likes to take from people just because they can, because the opportunity is there. And aliens in the cosmos are no different. Yes, there are some who are benevolent, but there are also others out there that they will come to a world like this one just because they can. Why not? It's free for the grab. So the way they can manipulate us really is, from what have I seen from really like the new age movement and whatnot, is another aspect of worshiping is perhaps there's also an energy inside of us who would love to be worshipped. And that's the danger zone right there. So essentially, when you talk about alien manipulation, is like e.t.s coming, perhaps in the astral planes, and they're telling you, not mankind as a whole, but you, specifically just you, how special you are and how better than everybody else you are, how you have abilities that nobody else on this planet has but you. That's a trap. That is a trap. And the reason I say that, because I had these experiences firsthand. You interact with Jesus and Jesus come, and I mean, this is like, you cannot mistake Jesus from any other energies in the universe, because I mean, the love, the unconditional love that you feel, and it's not like love bombing or anything, like you feel safe, you're like, wow, like you cannot deny that Christ is an enlightened being once you're in his vicinity and his presence. And had this, you know, experience of Jesus give me a bread. And I was like, wow, thanks, Jesus. I'm feeling really special right now, receiving this bread from you. He's like, oh, this is the same bread I give to everyone. I was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, you're just like everybody else. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. But maleficent ETs are not like that. Maleficent ETs would be like, and I've had this experience too, and they were like, hey, you know, you're special. You mean just like everybody else, right? Because just talk to Jesus here. We're all the same. They're like, no. But you are different. Are you aware they're like consuls in the cosmos who take care of balance and harmony, and they work in secrecy and whatnot, and you're part of that team. And they come and they offer you, and it's like a sushi bar, like, you know, figure of speech. And it's like, wow, the sushi's for everyone. They're like, no, it's not for everyone. It's just for people who are special like us. That's a trap. That is a huge trap, and a lot of people fall for it. It's one thing to have a celestial being come in interacting with us and help us, acknowledging that we may have abilities that we haven't tuned into because it's not in our culture, but with the understanding that everybody else can also do these things. The trouble arises when we're being singled out. And that is a huge thing to really understand when we start interacting with extraterrestrial beings who wants to help us. Benevolent extraterrestrial beings who really wants to help us will help us as a whole race. So therefore, when they come in our field, it's like, hey, you know, like this is your energetic body, the same as everybody else. There's always going to be an aspect that is the same as everybody else, because they're not just zoning in on you, they're just helping you understand yourself as a race, not as an individual. And essentially, when we start feeling special about ourselves and we develop a superiority complex, and now we create dissociation, me versus the rest of the world, that is demonic, because angelic beings and like Christ consciousness, and like really when we talk about like unity, love, and consciousness, that means everything is unified. So as soon as we separate ourselves from unity consciousness by, oh, this is mankind, but then there's me, I'm special, and mankind is just like this kind of subserving species because I'm connected with celestial beings. Now you just created separation. You're no longer in unconditional love. You're no longer in Christ consciousness. And then that means whatever you're going to be channeling, there may be some, I'm not saying you're not going to be able to channel some lovely beings or whatnot, but you're also going to be a channel for some perhaps more nefarious beings who have like hidden agendas and whatnot, who can feed really on us because, or get us to do things because now we feel special. So essentially that's how they seduce us. They seduce us through our ego, through our sense of worshiping, because we also love to be worshipped. So a big lesson to learn in that is to really understand that not only us humans are all equals with one another. And it's not to say that certain peoples have developed their skills better. I'm not a footballer, and never me, look at me, come on, you know, it's safe to say I wouldn't be good a footballer, but it doesn't mean that I'm lesser than a footballer because I cannot play football. That's the difference here. Essentially, is understanding that we can all develop our abilities, that no one is really special. We can be unique without being special. And that's a big one. So another way that I saw e.t.s kind of manipulating, and I'm surprised, this is conversation I have with people, and even in my own circles, it's taboo. And I feel like I'm afraid to talk about it sometimes because I'm not in a majority here. So you will have people who channels certain extraterrestrial intelligence. Fine. That's great. But a trend that I notice is the beings being channeled sometimes tends to be a bit condescending, which is a huge red flag for me. And secondly, I watched a video and I was among people where there was a woman and she was asking this being who was being channeled by a person a question. And she's like, I have emotional struggle with this. I'm struggling with this emotion. And the reply from this elevated being was, oh, but you don't actually technically feel that way. This is what is actually going on in the background. And I was shocked that, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And perhaps this is true for the person, but to me, this is textbook gaslighting. You have a person who came in front of you who tell you how they felt, and your reply to that as an elevated being is to completely deny this person's experience and implant another thought of your own and disguise that as spiritual teaching. I call BS on that big time. And I'm not saying every time that this happens, at the end of the day, the person who received, perhaps this is what she needed to hear, But to me, as an outsider looking in, I just felt that it looked like gaslighting, and I was flabbergasted that people are falling for that. And I think the reason some people are, it all comes with discernment, and it all comes to when this whole worshipping thing again. When we see a celestial being and we just assume that they are higher than us, then it makes us more gullible and perhaps less intellectual and analytical as to what's really going on, you know? So there's some kind of like, how do you call it? Like a honeymoon effect, like, oh, I'm hypnotized. Oh my God, I'm interacting with this celestial being. How special it is. Yeah, but when we stay like, okay, cool, but who are you really? Like, what are you really here? When we stay cool and collected about it, we may view this experience entirely different. And at the end of the day, this is what I'm encouraging here. I don't want to seed fear and be like, wow, like every interaction you have to be fearful or not. It's not about being fearful here. It's just about staying cool and collected about it and really witness what is going on inside of you when you're having these interactions. If you catch yourself putting this being on a pedestal, ask yourself why. Why, really? Like, it's cool, yes, but at the end of the day, like, I treat Jesus like a friend. I'm not at his level, like I say, no more than I'm a footballer, but at the end of the day, I don't put anything or anyone on a pedestal, and I also don't want to be put on a pedestal. And like really alchemizing these energies, I feel perhaps it really helps me see things for what they are and not for what I wish they were. And because of that, well, I'm less likely to be taken advantage of if, you know, if we stay a little, we take a little stand a little bit and just take our time to really observe the dynamics for what they are here. So this is what I'm suggesting. So this will be wrapping up the psychological aspect of extraterrestrial interactions. And the reason I wanted to mention that and how it relates to this being who is being taken off of this earth is when he was being held on the ground, and he's still there actually, because I haven't heard any reports that there was 5 spaceships that was seen somewhere. I'm waiting for that. But essentially, when this being was being held captive, whoever facility, and I don't want to say any countries or anything because I don't want to get flagged here, whoever is holding this being captives, I saw them actually sending a few psychic there to get a reading. And if the psychic went there and they were like a Care Bear and loving and whatnot, they came out not exactly the way they came in. They came out of that meeting with this ET more separated, more in their ego. And that may not be like that big of a deal. Like, I'm not saying like this person like came out of this meeting with this extraterrestrial beings like needing psychotherapy or being locked up in a facility. No, it's the subtlety of it that makes it so lethal, though, that they were no longer as much in their heart space as they were when they were in after interacting with these ETs, because these ETs mess with their brain a little bit, like allow them to make them feel special and whatnot. And now this psychic comes out and has a bit of an attitude. Small change, but sometimes the small shift are the most lethal because we're less likely to notice them. So I'll leave it as that for this portion. Now let's jump into the technological aspect of alien manipulation, which I feel has a direct impact as to why this being is being booted out of this planet. And just to show, again, bring awareness to, with amazement, like I want you to be excited about this, not scared really, because I think this is so cool to know, like really. But essentially the way into this, some alien has completely hacked our technology to have a direct impact on our genetic material. And here is the thing, and here's a download about this. Essentially, there is a geneticist. His name is Dr.Church, and I've mentioned him in another video, energetic support that I was doing. And essentially, this geneticist took a book that he had written about genetic. And he encoded this book in a binary code, zeros and one, with pictures and everything. And he wanted to see if he could download this book in binary code into a strain of DNA. And if he would be able to extract this binary code and then extract it and put it back into a book. And he was not only successful into doing that, but he found out that only 1 cubic millimeter of DNA he could encode his book 60 billion times. That's a lot of information that can be downloaded into just 1 cubic millimeter of DNA. And when I was sitting with this information, I was like, holy crap, like that was a few weeks ago. Essentially, this is something that may have happened, where think of extraterrestrial beings, and we are more pummeled now with telecommunication frequencies more than ever. Like, this is not something that could have happened like 200 years ago, but once we discover, like, we start putting out like satellites energy for radio and telecommunications, and now with all like the cell phone towers and whatnot, e.t.s have the technology to not only hack these frequencies, but they hack it so they can start downloading things into our DNA without us having any awareness of it. And this is on a galactic level a big no-no. This is why this being is being prosecuted and being taken out of this earth, because there's no way on a galactic level that it is okay for an extraterrestrial being to come on a planet and affect the general population like that, essentially using their technology against, like, human technology against humans for their own personal gain. And now, how does this can affect us, really? This excess information that may have been encoded within ourselves, essentially, what I was shown, the mental imagery is like, imagine a sea turtle that's full of barnacles, and it's swimming, it's still in the ocean doing its thing, but now it's not, its buoyancy's off, it's struggling, it's a lot more heavier. So think about it that, yeah, you're still very much human, but now you're like, your operating system is just a little sluggish. You're like, why do I have like brain fog? Like, why do I feel like I'm not operating at an optimal level? Why is my metabolism slowing down all of a sudden? Like these things, like they're just, again, little tweaks to bog us down. They're just things that do not need to be there. And you may be asking, like, holy crap, what are we doing with this? Like, how are we supposed to overcome this? It's really not that hard. You just have to understand that you are an incredibly powerful, sovereign being, and to command that whatever has been programmed into your DNA that's not meant to be there, that you're not consciously agreed for, that is not conducive to your own enlightenment and enrichment and living a fulfilling, healthy life, that has to be completely erased, dismantled, deleted, or sent it back to the sender. And in fact, I have made a few weeks ago an actual energetic video, energetic support, to really help you with this. You just have to open yourself to receive. It's just a whole bunch of light language, and to truly, firmly tap into the aspect of yourself that knows, that remembers that, yes, I am a sovereign being. I do not agree with this ET shit. I don't want it in my vessel. I'm reclaiming my own sovereignty, and yeah, let all hell break loose, really. So really understanding that you have the power and the ability to do that through my own transmission, that will be in the description box of this video if you want to watch it, that I'm merely sharing these frequencies with you and making them available to you. But at the end of the day, your higher self knows what to do with this, and you have the power and the abilities to really reestablish not only like clearing of everything that is unnecessary, but to also reestablish proper boundaries that we no longer accept this crap. And that's it. That's it. So like I said, it's not just about like providing cool information or whatnot. I love to provide solutions. I don't think I would have I don't want to be a conspiracy channel where it's like, ooh, look at all this crap is happening, but then I keep you there. I wouldn't feel comfortable being in front of a camera, bringing this information to you, only to leave you feeling frightened or feeling worried about the world around you. That's not my goal. I'm showing up today for you and sharing this experience so you know that we are, and you remember that we are far superior as a human race that we may be taught to believe. It could be like cultural, why not? It could be many layers to this. But at the end of the day, we do got this. We are sovereign being, and we are incredibly powerful, especially when we come together. And there's absolutely nothing to fear. That there is nothing to fear. We got this. So, thank you very much for watching. My name again is Isabelle, and if you would like to subscribe to my newsletter, I put out a newsletter every week, so you don't miss a video in case you don't want to subscribe to who am I on? Rumble. Rumble. So again, thank you all for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.